it's the same thing with Chaperone too. People were saying that the Subway was not as great as the first time that she performed it live.
Who said that?
A lot of people on TikTok.
Oh my God, they're so dumb.
And everyone loves that song.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Again, I don't have like a fully formed, smart way to like talk about this, but those are kind of that's like my brain dump.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And to that point, I mean, like, again, this is such a big trend in terms of Taylor's albums. Like, remember when Reputation came out and everyone was like, I don't know, Taylor, because it was such a huge departure from 1989.
Well, I remember.
And now, like, everyone is like, I've always been a Reputation stan. And it's like, half of you are lying. At least half of you are lying.
Yeah, I remember so vividly that time. And it was a hard pill for me to swallow too, that album. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, no, I will admit that I was like not sold for a while. It took a really long time.
But it also, I don't know if this is sacrilege or not. I don't know if the switches will come from me. I remember telling a lot of my friends, like, there is a good album in here, but for me, I need to reorder the songs for them to make sense.
I think we did that. Yeah.
Myself like a personal playlist. And then years later, which podcast was it that kind of like deep dove into all of Taylor Swift's albums? I think
is it every single album?
Yeah. And they mentioned like, oh, if you basically treat this like an A and B side, it makes more sense. And I feel like instinctually, subconsciously, that's kind of what I was doing. And that's how it made sense in my brain. Not to give myself too many pats on the back, but all I'm trying to say is that like it wasn't.
You needed to find the thesis.
Yes, and it was hard to swallow, but I did like it at the time, and I feel like people on the internet, friends of mine, all kind of felt like wrote it off so hard, and you know, good for Taylor. A lot of people to re-fall in love with it during the Eras tour, and everybody was like, "Oh man, this album is the best. It's always been the best." I've always said they had their Donald Trump moment. Like everything was so, I don't know, that was bad like at impressions, but that's what it truly felt like.
No, that's so true. And like I said, at least half of y'all are lying. So just fess up. It's fine. We can all change our minds.
Yeah. I love changing my mind. It's great. I'm just kidding.
I think, it is. It's fun because I think that it's just proof that you can like, sometimes you can like revisit these albums in different stages of your life and maybe it hits harder, you know, even like, I think like something like Tortured Poets, I appreciated that album so much more the more that I listened to it because it was just, it's so much like, it's almost like an overstimulation all at once because you're excited for new music. You don't know what you're going to get. You have to get used to retraining your brain to accept the fact that she doesn't like to do things twice anymore, really. You know, like yes, you could argue that tonally Showgirl maybe falls in line with what she was getting at with Midnights, and that Tortured Poets was like an unexpected pit stop along the way, which is why like there is kind of like this it's not like as much of like a gradual procession in growth as like something like Red to 89 was, because I remember vividly like watching her perform We Are Never Getting Back Together for the first time, and like you and I both turned to each other, we were like, oh, she's going full pop. Like next album, absolutely, like it's going to be pop, like no country in sight. But she's always kind of like in the beginning of her career, she was really good at pacing herself and kind of teasing, like teeing up what she was teasing for the future to kind of ease people in. And now she's kind of stopped caring. And I think that like for some people that don't understand that she's stopped doing that and she's unafraid to just kind of go for it, like it's more jarring to hear a departure of sound. But like that's what you should want in an artist. Like why would you want an artist to keep reheating their own nachos over and over again?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that Taylor obviously is not the first crossover artist ever, but I actually do want to give Taylor her flowers that because she's so synonymous with this idea about being in a different era, that it gave a lot of pop girlies after Taylor the permission to reinvent themselves without having to make it a big ordeal. Because it was sort of like she was during those years, because maybe she was the first to like dip her toes in the water or take the first step, she got any backlash that anybody was going to get. And then she almost acted as a shield to those pop girlies. I think in my head, I really think about Ariana Grande a lot because she has evolved so
See,
much between so many albums. She's younger than Taylor, but definitely was releasing music around the same time, especially around like Taylor's crossover era and like as Taylor's career has evolved for sure. And I really think that an artist like Ariana Grande benefited from that. Those are my opinions, at least.
yeah, yeah. So let's backtrack a little bit. I wanted to bring up a couple of things that she teased when she announced this album on New Heights. One of which was that it was going to be 12 tracks and that's it. And she was also pretty adamant about the fact that every track had a place on this album. There was nothing that could be added or taken away. Did you, on your first listen, do you feel like that was an accurate statement? Like, I do kind of feel like, regardless of whether you vibe with some tracks more than other tracks, it is a tight 42 minutes. And that is like, that's a respectable, runtime for an album. 42 to 45 minutes.
Yes, I would say that to that point, I agree for sure. I think that it was more, I think that I don't want to derail the conversation too much, but I remember during that conversation, something along the lines of how, on top of what you just said about having it to be like a very tight, like 12 songs, no more, no less, and everything has its purpose. I also remember her saying something around the lines of how Max didn't want to lose the poetry, so to speak, from folklore, but basically wanted tighter lyrics. And so for me, the thing that I was most focused on this album was not necessarily whether certain songs like maybe deserve or not deserve to be on the album. I was more thinking about what lyrics were left on the cutting room floor. Because in my opinion, she definitely edited herself lyric-wise, for better or for worse, because she is still emitting all of the emotion that she wants to in the song. She's telling the full story, but in less words. And so I think that was the most interesting to me as like an experience.
It's like the difference between, and Taylor's always been good at this. You're right. Like, it's the difference between like, a line like, I just want to know you better versus like, is it romantic how all of my elegies eulogize me? Like, she can do both. And I think that as she's grown older, she has kind of learned when it's appropriate to mix and match. And I think you see that a lot on like something like The Fate of Ophelia too, where she like a lot of it is modern, but then like she pulls it back and she kind of goes a little old school. She dropped a little like, Billy Shakespeare reference in there.
Yeah, definitely. I guess just to kind of bring it back to like the original kind of question. I mean, there are at least a couple of songs I don't really vibe with, but calling back to our kind of previous comment, listen, people change their minds, things grow on you, and I've only listened to the album once, and so let's see how I feel in a 1 to 3 weeks from now.
1 to 5 business days.
1 to 5 business days, but currently, yeah, sorry to say, there's maybe a couple of songs that I would have left on the cutting room floor. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's no way as a trio that they just wrote 12 songs. There's definitely more. So we know that there's no way they just only wrote 12 songs. They wrote more and they decided these are the best ones. And so, and there's a couple that I kind of feel like maybe didn't need to be on the album. But I'm also going to, leave those very strong feelings at the door stuff right now and like kind of hold my judgment for like a few weeks in the future to see if I still feel that way.
Yeah. And you're talking specifically to clarify like lyrically, right?
Because I think that like and also full songs too, where
full
I'm
song
like,
tonally.
I don't think I loved a couple of songs, but yeah, lyrically too. I think some of the online discourse I'm seeing is about the lyrics, and I think people being maybe a little disappointed about them. And I think that that's kind of what I'm referencing. It's about like there's certain
For
things where
sure,
like,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, it's tough because I think that like with Taylor Swift, I do think that this like tonally, this is a very cohesive album. I do think that like it fits together. Like the actual production and the melodies and all of that, like that tells a story. Lyrically, I think it does too, but it is personal preference. And there are with some departures, right? But I do think that like you're right, it really is at the end of the day going to be like what is palatable to you. And for some people they really like the prose. I'm personally always somebody that like appreciates when somebody knows when to pull back and then when somebody really hits hard with a metaphor. You know, like but there are some people that just don't appreciate the nuance of simplicity. So it's tough to pander to those people if they just like if they don't get it, you know?
No, I totally agree. And to be honest, I do wonder how much of that, in a good way, I guess, or because maybe for better or for worse, has been inspired from Sabrina Carpenter. Because
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that what a lot of people appreciate about Sabrina is sometimes she just says the quiet part out loud. Sometimes she just kind of, it feels like instead of really working through what is the most clever way to say this, or what is, or what have you, she just kind of goes with like, what is that voice inside you want to say? And then she just says it.
Yeah.
I think that's what people
Yeah.
really appreciate and love about her. And I do wonder if a little bit of that rubbed off on Taylor, for better or for worse.
I could see that. I think that she likes some wordplay. She likes like a dirty little joke. You
Yeah.
know? I just think that also like people kind of have to remember that she is a 35-year-old lady now. And so if she wants to come out with these like outlandish lyrics, like I don't think we should be clutching our pearls so much about it. You know what I mean? Like that's her prerogative and she's earned the right to try regardless of how you feel about it. But yeah, I just think it's interesting that like because she has been like tastefully horny in the past at best or like tastefully thirsty, people are now saying like, oh, like this is like trashy. It's like, well, why is it trashy when Taylor says it, but like, it's not trashy when other artists do it.
Yeah,
Like maybe
that's
it
a
kind
really
of
good
is, but
point.
why are you all like snapping and being like, get it, girl? You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. That's good. That's a really good point. Yeah, I guess it's because they have this image of Taylor,
Yeah.
and it's hard for people to think that people can change, basically.
Yeah. Well, maybe now that she's going to be like a married woman, they'll stop infantilizing her. I
Yeah.
think that that's like an entirely different conversation that we could
Wouldn't
have
that
about
be
like the
great?
infantilization of, yeah,
Yeah.
of women who are unmarried and childless.